Chad Reuter of the NFL Network released a 3-round mock draft with trades. Let's break it down. So first thing you notice is that the Chicago Bears trade out of the first pick in the draft. Absolutely love this, that they trade not only just once but twice, both with the Texans and the Colts. I absolutely love this for the Bears. I think that they need to rebuild their roster, acquiring extra draft picks, and I also expect them to be very active in free agency as they try to rebuild their roster. The Houston Texans, I actually really like this quite a bit. I have CJ Stroud as my quarterback number one for this exact reason. It's not the 6 foot that bothers me, it's the 194. Can he withstand the beating that he's going to take in the NFL? By the way, listed heights and weights are school measurements, so if he's listed as 194 pounds at Alabama, he's probably closer to 180, 185. He'll need to get into an NFL weight room. He may not be able to start day one, but you make this move if you're confident he is the guy for you. And the trade capital makes sense here. You give up the 2 picks from the Deshaun Watson trade, your 3rd round pick in 2023, your 1st round pick in 2024, plus you get a 5th rounder back this year. He's the best quarterback in the draft. If this doesn't concern you, it does me, but you have to be sold on this if you're making this move. So I'm assuming the Texans love it. I like it as well. I absolutely love this move for the Colts here. What you do is Chicago gets the 1st and 2nd round picks this year, plus 2nd and 3rd round picks in 2024. You can also use those picks to trade up in this year's draft. CJ Stroud will be a day one starter. Steve Steichen, the former Eagles offensive coordinator, takes over as the Colts' new head coach. And I think Stroud becomes a day one starter and becomes an absolute superstar. Next up, you have Arizona at 3 and Chicago at 4. Jalen Carter here is the best player in the draft. It's interesting because you're having him replace J.J. Watt. That's a 5 technique, not a nose tackle, and I think that's what he would play. To be perfectly honest, I might switch Carter and Anderson here, but I actually really like both of these picks, so this would make a lot of sense for both teams. I love that Chicago trades down twice and gets Will Anderson, a guy that could be a superstar for a very long time. Next up, absolutely love this. So a projected trade with Seattle Seahawks. I did not know Scott Fritter calls his old friends in Seattle. I should have known that, but I didn't. Seattle lands a day 3 pick to even out the exchange. By the way, if you're not aware, Will Levis is going to skyrocket up NFL draft boards. He's a guy, he's 6'3", he's 235. It's a former Bill Parcells thing. He never drafted a quarterback that wasn't an honor roll student. Will Levis, perfect 4.0 student. NFL scouts are going to fall in love with this guy, not for what they see on the film, but more for what you're going to see off the film. He's going to interview better than any NFL quarterback. He's the type of guy that you would want your daughter to date. So Carolina gets their quarterback of the future here. Great trade by Carolina and great move by Seattle, as you'll see here. Next up, Detroit at 6. Christian Gonzalez, I'm hearing he's going to have just a crazy combine. I'm hearing 4.25 40 at 6'2", 200. I'm not sure if he's the best corner in the draft, but with that type of athleticism, it's going to be hard for Detroit to pass. Detroit at 6 where the draft gets really interesting, so I don't have a problem with this. Raiders at 7 taking Paris Johnson Jr. makes a lot of sense, but they only make this move if the Raiders sign either Garoppolo or Aaron Rodgers. I think he could come in and be a right tackle right away, or he may play guard. The Raiders have a left tackle, so it's a high draft pick for a guy who's not going to play left tackle, but they've had some holes on the offensive line. Don't have too much of a problem with it. The Falcons at 8. Now, the Falcons have a new defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen. He coached with the Saints. I think that he's going to use the same 3-4 defense that they had with Dean Pease over the last 2 years. Miles Murphy, you got to get pressure after quarterback. He finished 31 in sacks, so I really like this pick. I might have flipped these two, but I don't have a problem with that. Seattle, I could see them falling in love with Tyree Wilson. I think that he might be the pick at 5, but you trade down, you get an extra draft pick, and you get your guy at 9. That makes a lot of sense. Here is where the draft gets really interesting. The Eagles take Bijan Robinson at 10, and Bijan Robinson is hands down the best running back in the draft. Now, you go ahead and you do this only if you get rid of Miles Sanders. Normally, I would have a problem replacing a starter with a rookie. It's not something the Eagles have done, but this is kind of an exception here. But John Robinson is good enough that he could come into the NFL. By the way, 30, 40 years ago, this is the number one pick in the draft. This guy might be an MVP caliber type player. Pick number 11 is where I have a big time disagreement. I love Dalton Kincaid. Reminds me a lot, I am hesitant to say this, reminds me a lot of Travis Kelce. He's basically a big wide receiver, not really your stereotypical tight end. That's why I don't like the pick. If you're the Tennessee Titans, you run the ball, you revolve around Derrick Henry. So if you are going to take a tight end at 11, which I don't think they're going to do, Kincaid's not going to be the guy. You're going to go with Michael Mayer, who's my tight end number one, a guy that can block. Kincaid's really just a big wide receiver. If you're Tennessee and you're picking a big wide receiver, I would go with Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver out of TCU. So this is a disagreement. I love the player, just don't like the fit, and I don't see, if Tennessee does want to draft a tight end at 11, they're going to take a guy like Michael Mayer who can actually block. Pick number 12, Kajila Kansi, hopefully I'm getting that name right. So what you're doing if you're D'Amico Ryans is you're the new head coach. You're bringing in the very similar defense that Lovie Smith had, and you need studs. That's one thing Lovie Smith really failed on, is that he didn't bring studs. He just brought bodies. He was planning on just rotating guys, keeping them in fresh. No, you need a guy that can beat double teams. If you think this is the guy, then this is going to be a home run of a pick. I like the fit. I like the scheme. Now, pick number 13 is where the draft gets a lot of fun. Anthony Richardson going to the Jets. Now, here's the drill. You have to trade Zach Wilson in order for this to work. But if you do trade Zach Wilson, the one thing you have to be careful is Anthony Richardson is not a day one starter. He's got to sit for a year. Now, he can play. Like, you could use him goal line situations. You could use him in the Wildcat. You can have a package for him. But if you're going into the season with Anthony Richardson being your starting quarterback, you're going to fail. But if you have a program for him, if you can ease him into the starting lineup, do the same thing that the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes, is he had him sit for a year and then he comes in year two and he could be a superstar. Next is 14, 15, 16. I have a hard time believing New England's going to go back-to-back first-round picks on offensive line. I love the player. I love the fit. I just don't see New England doing that. I think Michael Mayer or JSN here makes a lot more sense. I don't agree with Green Bay taking a wide receiver in the first round. They went ahead and got some rookie wide receivers last year that played really well, especially towards the end of the year. So I don't see Green Bay doing this. I actually think Green Bay takes either one of these guys. That makes a lot more sense to me. With Washington, I don't have too much of a problem with this pick. I just think that they go on the defensive side of the ball. This is a corner-heavy draft. Joey Porter Jr. still on the board. He's my corner number one. That makes a lot of sense. Joey Porter, again, makes also a lot of sense to Pittsburgh. This is an interesting pick because I've seen him as top 10, plenty of upside. I think there is some risk here, but if it works out, it does. Lions fans, I think, would hate this pick, but this is a guy, he's a DJ Hawkinson clone. He would be the definition of a kneecap biter. I think Lions fans would fall in love with this guy. Has all the tools to be a superstar tight end. He's my tight end number one. Absolutely love this kid. This is an interesting pick here at 19 because he's a versatile nickel deep box defender. I think if you pigeonhole him just as a corner, I think that's a fail. And here's the thing, in the defense, Todd Bowles runs, they run a two deep safety set. They really don't get very creative. So are you drafting him and changing your offense around? Or your defense around? If so, this makes a lot of sense. But if you're using the same style of defense, this pick doesn't make any sense at all. Buffalo trades up with Seattle. This makes a lot of sense. Buffalo doesn't have a lot of holes, but I love this Addison pick. Plus, you also have to move on from Diggs sooner or later. Maybe this is an indication that Diggs Hey, man, your time may be coming to an end in the next year or two. I love Addison. Perfect fit for the Buffalo offense. Bills fans would love this, by the way. Joey Porter Jr., the 21, is an absolute steal here. J.C. Jackson was the definition of a bust. Even before the knee injury, he got demoted. So I absolutely love this pick. Porter and Samuel. Samuel, they can move all around because he can play inside, outside. Porter's more of an outside guy. He's my number one corner. Chargers would get a steal here. Projected trade with the Baltimore Ravens. I absolutely love this. You get Witherspoon. This is a day one starter, and Baltimore gets an additional third rounder. That's something Baltimore loves to do. Keon White is a great fit for a new defensive coordinator, Brian Flores. This is a guy could be a day one starter. Could also indicate that you're going to move on from Danielle Hunter. That also might be kind of interesting. But even if you keep Hunter, Keon White plays on the other side. This is a great pick. I've seen lots of mock drafts where he's a top 10 player, so I absolutely love this. Jacksonville getting Cam Smith in the first round. Yeah, perfect. He's a day one starter opposite Tyson Campbell. So I absolutely love that you trade down. And for the third time in 5 years, the Ravens select the first wide receiver in round one. Yeah, I get that. Here's the deal. Jalen Hyatt is probably going to be about 180, 185. He wouldn't surprise me if he runs under 4.3. This guy's got world-class speed. But what do the Ravens want to do? They want to run the ball. They want a physical blocking wide receiver. That's Quentin Johnson out of TCU. That's not Jalen Hyatt. Love the player, don't love the fit. Dallas, Trenton Simpson. You only make this move if you're planning on moving on from LVE or Anthony Barr. If you are, this is a great move. Probably a day one starter. Here's the thing. I like both of these players. So if I'm Dallas, instead of filling a hole, I try to re-sign these two guys and I go in another direction, but I love Simpson. He's a great fit and great value at 26. This would be one of my favorite picks in the draft. You go ahead, Osiris Torrance, just watch some film on him. He's the definition of road grader. So what you do with Seattle is you get your two tackles in last year's draft, then you get a monster in Torrance, and your offensive line set for the next 10 years. It'll be tough paying all three of those guys in a couple years, but don't worry about that now. You have a great offensive line, and you really enjoy it. You would move on from Gabe Jackson if you make this move, but that's okay. I don't agree with this pick at all. The reason why is that you had three backups that played at a pretty high level, and you've been using a lot of draft capital and free agency to build up that offensive line. Yeah, you got three starters that were injured, but that's kind of a rarity, to be perfectly honest. I don't think you use another pick on the offensive line if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. It's not the direction they've been doing. One thing I like about him is that he shows versatility, so he can play anywhere on the offensive line. I like the player, don't like the fit at all. So I think the Bengals go in another direction. Disagree with this pick. Pick number 29, the Saints only do this if they land a quarterback via free agency. To be perfectly honest with you, I would probably flip-flop that with Rashee Rice, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Now, keep in mind, this is the type of guy at 290 power and agility as a defensive end who's 290. That's kind of rare, but yeah, it does sound like Cameron Jordan, which you are probably looking to replace. This pick, I like the player. This has not been what the Eagles do, by the way. The Eagles don't draft players to replace starters and have them start day one. That's not what the Eagles do. But if they do lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I get that. And Hickman's not the same type of player, by the way. This is more of a strong safety type of player, but if you do lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which they probably will, unfortunately, this is not really the guy who's going to come in and replace him. I would go in a different direction, but I do like this player quite a bit. A lot of Chiefs fans think that because the draft's being held in Kansas City that the Chiefs have to use a pick in the first round. I don't agree with that at all. I think that there's a very good chance that Kansas City's going to trade out of round 1 because Kansas City's been very aggressive in rounds 2, 3, and 4 in the past, and they do have a lot of draft picks. So I think that Kansas City this makes a lot of sense for the Kansas City Chiefs. I actually think that there's a good chance that the Saints would draft Rashee Rice and that the Bears would draft Tupelua because this guy would be a guy that you can use as a 5 technique and a defensive end. So I would flip-flop those 2 picks, but this is a great draft so far. We're going to start with round 2 here. You get the massive defensive tackle out of Baylor. This makes a lot of sense for the Steelers. He may not start day 1, but he'll contribute, could be a star. Luke Musgrave, for those of you who don't know, has all the talent in the world, but he was injured, missed most of the season. The Texans, I think, only make this move if you know he can come in training camp and contribute right away. You don't want a situation like last year where you trade for a guy like Mechie and he doesn't play. The next 2 picks I absolutely love here. The Cardinals get a guy, maybe a starter in Dawan Jones. I'm not sure if he's a tackle in the NFL or goes inside, but this is a guy who could start. Darnell Wright could be a day 1 starter on the right side. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he goes in round 1. Absolutely love this pick. Nolan Smith, I love this pick for the Rams here. This is a guy I've seen a lot of mock drafts, him going in round 1. Love this pick, probably a day 1 starter. This is interesting. Tyreek Stevenson, great size, great speed, physical freak of nature. If this works, you get a pair of outside corners in Seattle. This could be a home run. Raw prospect, very raw prospect. So you're rolling the dice here, but if it works, it could be a home run. I love Gibbs going to the Raiders, even if you keep Josh Jacobs. This is a different type of running back than Jacobs. Jacobs is a guy more of a in between the tackles. He's not a home run threat. Gibbs is a home run threat. So whether you keep Jacobs or not, I love this pick for the Raiders at 38. Darnell Washington, I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he goes in round 1. I think this is a perfect spot for the Panthers, and I really love the fact that you use your 5th pick overall on a quarterback, then you go ahead and you come back with a tight end. Saints, Zay Flowers, pick number 40. I mentioned earlier that I would have taken a wide receiver. I would have flip-flopped the pick with Rashee Rice. Here you go. You pick up your receiver at 40. So what they did earlier in round 1 makes a lot more sense. I love this pick here. Tennessee Titans, Will McDonald, simply because Bud Dupree, this guy's always been injury prone. You can't count on him to play for 17. And you also have Harold Landry coming off of an injury. He's good insurance for 1 or 2 of those guys, especially if you want to move on from Bud Dupree. This is a guy who could be an absolute star. Love this pick. Mozzie Smith, absolutely love here. You draft interior players because you got a guy who's an alien on the outside. In Myles Garrett, get a guy who can stuff the middle here. Love this pick. John Michael Schmitz is probably the best center in the draft. You go ahead and you solidify your offensive line at 43. Great move here. Now here's the deal. You used the 8th pick overall. I believe it was the 8th pick overall. Maybe it was 7th on Drake London. So going back to another receiver is iffy, especially when you have more needs on the defensive side of the ball. Love the player, love the value. I think Atlanta goes defense. Antonio Johnson's a guy I have a major man crush on. I think he goes top 20. If the Packers are able to get him at 45, this is an absolute steal. Quentin Johnson is my wide receiver number 1. Another steal for the New England Patriots. I don't think there's a chance you get him at 46, but there's always players that drop in the draft. This could be one of them. Emmanuel Forbes, a lot of people have been telling me this guy is just amazing. He likes to hit. This could be a day 1 starter in the home run pick. I don't think he lasts 47, but great fit. I love this pick. His brother's already a starter. King-size linebacker. I want to see what he can do movement-wise. He might be a guy that can't play on 3rd down, but this is a guy that would be a player, would be easily a fan favorite. Harrison might be a day 1 starter. This would be a great pick for the Steelers. Clark Phillips, 3rd. Really good player. I like his fit. I don't know if he's a starter or not, but he'll compete. I love this pick here. The only thing is, though, I think you're set at the linebacker position. So I'm kind of curious about this. Like, are you trying to make a move with one of those starters? I'm not really sure, but I love this pick. Great value at 51. This is a great pick because even if he's not ready right away, you get a guy that's completely different than Geno Smith. This is a very large human being, a guy that I think would easily be a first-round pick if he was healthy. You ease him into it, possible starter down the line. And bottom line, if you are happy with Geno Smith, you sign him to a long-term contract. Hey man, you get a great backup here. I love this pick. Jalen Duncan, I absolutely love this pick. He may surprise people, be a day one starter. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he is going 6th overall to Detroit. So the Chargers can grab him at pick number 54. That's a home run of a pick. Massive upside. I don't think he lasts 54, but if he does, it's a great pick. Lions fans are going to love this pick. This is a former Michigan Wolverine transferred out to UCLA. Just a tackle-to-tackle runner. I love this guy. Lions fans are going to love this guy too. You're pretty much giving up on Jamal Williams coming back if you make this pick, though. Same situation with Jacksonville here. If you draft this guy, you're kind of giving up on Evan Ingram being able to re-sign him. If I'm Jacksonville, I sign Evan Ingram and I go in a different direction. But if you don't sign Evan Ingram, this guy could be a day one starter, massive upside. I like the fact that you draft a wide receiver here if you're the Giants. If you don't go for a wide receiver in round 1, come back in round 2, get a guy. Underrated player, could be a day one starter. And so if he played at Oklahoma, he's from Texas. I'm almost willing to bet money on that. I would go in a different direction if I'm Dallas, but I don't hate the pick. I love the fact Buffalo adds to their offensive line. Absolutely love this pick. Deonte Banks is a guy with massive upside. I love this pick. He may surprise people and replace Eli Apple. Could be a day one starter, and you get him at pick 60. That's phenomenal. BJ Ojulari, I absolutely love this pick. I don't know if this is really a need, but this is fantastic value, and you may just be trying to get the best player on the board. Kelly Ringo, I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he's a day one starter. So, I'm sorry, he's a first round pick. This is a good guy. You may lose. You may lose Bradbury in free agency. If so, Ringo may surprise people. You're getting a lot of Georgia players if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. I like that. This is a great pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, Jamie Robinson. So this is a guy, he's listed as a safety, but he can do a lot of things that the Honey Badger did. He's a guy that can come in. He's a smaller, faster guy, so he could play slot corner. He could play deep. He would not only be a replacement for Juan Thornhill, he could be a possible upgrade. Absolutely love this pick, and you get him late in the second round. That's excellent value. So great job by the Kansas City Chiefs. Now let's move on to round 3. So we start off the third round with the Bears taking Byron Young out of Alabama. And the way this mock draft works is that the Bears would end up getting Will Anderson, Rashee Rice, Jalen Duncan, and Byron Young. These are 4 guys that are going to contribute, maybe even 4 day one starters at key positions. What a great job by the Bears here. I love this guy. I live in the Kansas City area, so I did watch a lot of this kid, Felix Nzuduke Zama. I'm butchering that name. I am so sorry. He's more of a 3-4 outside linebacker. He'll need to put on some weight, but he's a guy who's going to contribute day one on third down, and if he puts on enough weight, he could be a starter at defensive end, could be a star. You get him at top of the third round. Great pick. Cedric Tillman, I don't think is lasting to 66, but if he does, the Cardinals get a steal. This is a great job by the Arizona Cardinals. They get a really, really good wide receiver. I really like this kid. I love both of these picks. The only thing is, though, that the Broncos have a hole at tackle, not guard. So if you make this move, do you kick somebody outside? Do you attack this in free agency? Love the pick, don't love the fit. Drew Sanders, I've seen a lot of mock drafts where he goes in round 1. This is a king-size linebacker with lots of upside. Great pick for the Denver Broncos. J.L. Skinner, a massive safety out of Boise State, a guy that loves a hit. Rams are going to love this kid, probably a day one starter. Derek Hall will need to put on some weight, but he's a guy who's going to contribute on third down right away. Raiders fans are going to love him. Could end up being a starter opposite Max Crosby. Really good fit, especially great value, especially at 70. I love taking the local kid here at 71, especially because Alvin Kamara is going to be suspended for part of 2023. It's unclear of how many games, but he is going to miss time. Tyjae Spears is just rocketing up draft boards. He's not going to last 71, but the way this mock draft works, the Saints get a steal to get a local kid. You're gonna fall in love with them, Saints fans, if you haven't watched them already. I love adding to the offensive line. This is something that I would have done already, but you get a really good fit. This could be a day one starter. You get him in the third round. Excellent pick. The Bears get another addition to the offensive line to go along with Duncan. Absolutely love this. You may get 2 day one starters on the offensive line here. Absolutely love it. This is interesting because you get a guy who's a great fit for the Jets, but I don't know if you really need a linebacker, but if he ends up starting, he'll contribute on special teams, provide good depth. This is the type of player that Robert Saleh loves. So fast, undersized tackler. Not sure if you really need a linebacker, but great fit. Great job by the Falcons adding some depth here on the offensive line. I don't know if he starts, but look, you got a young quarterback. Get another tackle. I like the move here. If you're not familiar with this, Kirk LaFrance and Bill Belichick have been longtime friends, so I love anytime the Patriots can get a player from Iowa. You know what you're getting. Tough, smart, contributes on special teams day one, and could end up eventually being a starter. Great job by the Patriots. Andre Carter's an interesting guy. I saw a lot of mock drafts early on that he goes late first. I don't think he goes there. This is good value. You're kind of set here at edge rusher, so I'm not really sure if you're just playing hardball with one of these guys or if you're just adding depth. Kind of confusing, but a great fit and excellent value at 77. I love the fact that the Packers get a tight end at pick number 78, add some depth. I'm drawing a blank on their tight end's name out of UCLA. He's been playing forever. He's not going to be there forever, so I love getting a tight end at pick number 78. Mike Morris adds some nice depth to the defensive line. I love the fact that they're adding the guy in the third round. Not a day one starter, adds good depth. The thing with Rashawn Johnson is that you got Benny Snell, who's the same type of player, so you're planning on moving on from Snell. This is a backup running back, so he has plenty of tread. Really does a lot of the same things that Najee Harris does. He's a bigger physical guy, not near the athlete, but it kind of indicates if you make this move that you're moving on from Benny Snell, a guy that I like, so I'm kind of questioning this. Love this pick for the Detroit Lions. This guy does a lot of the same things that Jared Goff does. So you basically, get a guy who's going to be a backup. It wouldn't surprise me if he starts the season as a quarterback number 2 for the Lions. Plus you get a guy who down the line could push Goff as a starter. Great move by the Lions getting a future backup quarterback at 81. I don't know too much about Carl Brooks, but I do love the fact that you're adding to the defensive line, building up that front seven, which is going to be the strength of your team going forward. You just have to address the quarterback position, which you are hoping to do via free agency. Not a position of need, but this is a guy that Pete Carroll is going to like, so I do like this move. I love this move for the Dolphins here, addressing the offensive line. This wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being the day one starter at right tackle. Would not surprise me at all. Christensen, the former teammate at BYU, could move inside, or you can move Freeland inside. Very interesting move here. Could be a day one starter. Great move. So last year, the Chargers drafted Jeremy Slayer in the 6th round. And then once their starting left tackle got hurt, they moved Jeremy Slayer over to left tackle. Ended up doing a really good job. So double dipping back on the Georgia offensive line. Slayer was a 6th round pick out of Georgia, played left tackle. McClendon was right tackle. However, you solidified the offensive line. Great job protecting Herbert. Smart move. I've seen a lot of mock drafts where Foxley goes in the 1st round. You really don't need another edge rusher, but at 86, I absolutely love this, just in case David Ojabo, who should be fresh coming off the injury, possible pushing for a starting position. You obviously make this move and you don't plan on retaining Justin Houston, but you really don't need it, but fantastic value. And it's this stereotypical Ravens move. Draft a guy who could be a starter down the line. Kai Blue Kelly could surprise people and be a day one starter. Love this pick. Jordan Battle, I don't see lasting with pick number 88, but if he does, he may be a day one starter. Same thing with Joe Tippmann, excellent big center. They do have a hole at center for the Giants, so I absolutely love this. This is interesting for the Cowboys. One thing I absolutely love that the Dallas Cowboys do is address the offensive line. So this is a guy who, if you notice, he's listed offensive line because he played tackle. He's going to be a guard. You really don't need a guard if you're the Dallas Cowboys, but getting depth is interesting, and you also get some versatility. Not a position in need, kind of a luxury pick, but I love the fact that you're addressing your offensive line. One of the things the Cowboys do a great job of. This is a guy that could really surprise for Seattle Seahawks. Could be a day one starter. Love this pick at 91. This is interesting here for the Bengals because you used the first round pick last year on, I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name out of Michigan. You used the pick last year on a safety. You have Jesse Bates. So not a guy who's going to start unless you're planning on using 3 safety sets. You could be using this to kind of say, hey, Bates, you want to play hardball with us again. We've got a replacement. Kind of a luxury pick. Not bad value, but if you plan on moving on from Bates, this could be a steal. I love this pick. Don't be surprised if he ends up being the starting running back. You can get him late in the 3rd round. Great job by the Panthers. This is a guy that has no business being around at 94. It's a luxury pick. It might mean that you are going to play hardball with either Reddick or Joshua Sweat. This is a guy should not be available at 94. This is what the Eagles love to do, is stock up on the defensive linemen. Great job by the Eagles. No way he's available at 94, though. This is a great pick by the Kansas City Chiefs. You kind of make this move if you don't plan on re-signing Juju Smith-Schuster. This is a raw guy. But he will contribute a little bit day one. Chiefs fans are really going to like this guy. He's going to show some flashes, but not a guy who's ready to play right away. This, on the other hand, is a guy who might surprise people and be able to play right away. Great job by the Cardinals. I love this guy, especially at 96. I'm Owen Papu. This is a Ron Riviera type of player. Small, undersized, fast. This could be a really, really, really good pick. So we got, these are compensatory picks here, so it's projected, so I'm going to go with it. You go ahead and you get big time money for Amari Cooper. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones. Used a 3rd round pick on David Bell, so why are you using another 3rd round pick on a wide receiver? I would go in a different direction, but I do like the fit, especially if you're not happy with Bell or Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I would go in a different direction, but I love the fit. I like getting them at 98. If you're the 49ers, doubling down on edge rushers is always a good idea. You get good value here. The Ravens drafting a running back at pick 100 is just absolute genius. Absolutely love this. And then the 49ers picking 101 and 102. I love both of these picks. Darius Rush is a big physical corner built for this defense. Absolutely love this pick. I think this is more of a depth type situation deal here at pick 102, but absolutely love this. Fantastic job on a 3-round mock draft with trades. I can't do it. I hope you enjoyed it. And look, I'm giving you my opinion on these picks. Drop your opinions below. Hey, let's talk football. I look forward to seeing you next week where I continue to mock the mock.